Hello, fellow homebrewers. JP here, and I want to introduce to you the brand new Brewbuilt X1 Conical Series available at More Beer. More Beer sells the highest standard in homebrewing equipment, and the Brewbuilt Conicals are just that. They're made from mirror-polished 304 stainless steel, and they come with loads of features that you and I have been looking for. They have a full 2-inch bottom dump valve, which will eliminate your clogging issues, while the sturdy base includes 4 reinforced legs, just like those big pro tanks do. More Beer also carries the Brewbuilt line of options and add-ons like casters, pressure kits, and even external glycol chillers. So you can find out more about the new Brewbuilt X1 Conical Unitanks by going over to morebeer.com for detailed videos on the entire line of Brewbuilt Conicals. You can trust Brewbuilt with your next fermentation, and you can trust More Beer to find the right conical for you. Brewbuilt at morebeer.com.
Great beer is about drinkability. Doesn't matter the style.
You guys are like walking beer Wikipedia. That's the first time that you've ever accepted me as a person.
Or you have a fermentation in your gut.
I'm jet propelled at all times.
How many guys do you think that you have the privilege to slap?
Somebody who's never tasted a commercial example, and this is how you know everything about this beer? Please, you don't.
I think that's bullshit.
I think it's bullshit too.
Wow. Are you guys going to arm wrestle?
No.
We're going to teabag fight.
Yeah. You heard of Junkyard Wars?
Can I get another high five, Beavis?
Now, live from the Brewing Network studios in Northern California, this is the radio program for home brewers, craft brewers, beer lovers, and beer geeks. It's your only source for live beer radio that brings expert brewers together with, well, expert drinkers. This is the radio program with a head on it. This is The Session.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Session. It's another beer show for us, another session conversation where we are talking craft beer with my, my on repeat co-host, Teresa. How you doing, Teresa?
Fabulous as always.
You're like the only person, you and Sully, you're like the only people that care about me.
I care deeply. That's why I show up.
Hey, come on.
And about Dave. I've been worried about Dave. So I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, but back to me. Face. Yeah, but who cares? Dave's always going to be fine.
I've only had 2 near-death experiences so far in 2021. So things are going up.
Oh my God! Yes, that is true. We have Dave Marliave back in the virtual studio, because believe it or not, Dave, we've had people asking for updates on your life.
I'm really good at making people feel better about themselves, especially in 2020.
Well, yeah, I would think so. They're from various life insurance companies, so I don't know what I should tell them. But this is.
Is there a limit on the number of policies that can be taken out on one person?
We're about to find out.
We're approaching that limit.
We're going to bring them on the line. It's Gary Stuffensugar from Geico Life Insurance is joining us today to talk to you about policy withdrawals. No,
I prefer independent.
About your new ventures. You have several things going on. So you and I talk, a little bit infrequently, but that's okay. We both have busy lives. I played Warcraft for 4 hours today. And you recently were like, yeah, here's a bunch of stuff that I'm going to be cryptic about and super cool and drama about. I can't tell you. And then suddenly you decided to tell me everything. So you have like half a dozen things going on. And I thought it'd make a good show. Mainly because you're brewing at like 3 different brands or 4 maybe now. I don't really know what's going on. Only 2?
Now 3 this summer.
Okay, we'll see. There you go. So you're a busy guy, and it feels like things are looking up for you. And I don't want to spoil anything, because we're going to cover all that in the show today, which we almost didn't have, by the way, because FedEx decided to delay shipping beer. And usually FedEx gets to me at like 7 o'clock at night. It's like, well, we're going to have to postpone it, but. Then I got lazy and didn't say anything and didn't decide. And then the universe decided for me, because that's what it does. The universe is a being that focuses on my life personally. And I got the beer. And I was putting it in my fridge. I was like getting it ready. This is like from my fridge out in the garage to my fridge here on the desk. and I was pulling them out of the plastic, 4-pack holders that everyone has or whatever. And I don't know if the tab, little pull tab on the top was maybe just a little bit up, or maybe it was my fault, but I ripped it out of the thing and it popped the beer and sprayed beer everywhere. So like you, man, I've had a hard day today. So and it
you got beer on you.
Now,
I mean, that's like you work in a brewery. Yes, we all get beer on ourselves every day.
Yeah, you guys can relate. It's just, I'm like,
wow, for sure.
I'm bummed out. I would take a nap, but I have to work. It's the Imperial Porter. Hopefully it'll be fine, man. Hopefully we're right.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't discover how it was shipped on live television, but we'll I guess figure that out.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Was it cold still? Was it like intact, dense scrapes? No, don't care.
None. That's fine. What are you talking about? What am I supposed to say? You tell me what I'm supposed to say. Now
it looks beautiful and majestic, JP. Just like
majestic. It's majestic. I could tell you that much.
Well, Dave, look, let's because I'm thirsty, because I've had such a hard day. I want to start drinking your beer, but we can't do that until we talk to you, unfortunately. So, what's going on, man? Last time we talked, I believe you have a better memory than I do for this stuff. You were like being sued, and you were living in like a wilderness survival tent in the wilds somewhere. What's happening? Isn't that it?
Now I sleep in a hammock in a closet. So it's been a pretty good upgrade.
Yeah, dude.
So back in October, basically while I was getting New Spring up and running, took a position with Yachats Brewing out in Yachats on the coast with the plan to basically just dial in their program. They're already making killer beer, but fine-tune things a bit and set them up to really increase distribution, sales.
Hold on, you're jumping the gun. You jumped the gun. You're talking about New Spring. Nobody knows what you're talking about.
Well, where do you want me to start? New Spring hasn't started in October.
From the last time that we talked about you.
What's that?
I don't know. That's what I was trying to set you up, man.
So June, we already talked about the building stuff, right? That was the last show.
You're in the middle.
Yeah, the last show was like you had kegs all in your front yard or your backyard. It was a disaster. You had to move your whole brewery in a month, and you were like almost done with that, or just got done.
Yeah. So I want to go through everything. I want to savor all of the juicy details.
Savor the misery. I got it.
Yeah, you're the Mighty Ducks.
Basically, to go back in time, what happened was I worked out a deal with the new owners of Calapooia Brewing in Albany.
Right.
Took all my equipment, moved over to Calapooia, and our goal was to set up an alternating proprietorship so that I could brew on my equipment in their space. They got a major, brew house upgrade. Win. The OLCC was not really keen on facilitating that.
What is that? Liquor license?
The Oregon Liquor Control Commission.
Okay. All right.
So Calapooia is owned by the husband and wife team that started Vivacity Spirits. So when they bought Calapooia Brewing, they moved their whole distillery over here. So right now they have a full on-premise license for their pub. They have a brew pub. They have a distillery. They have a tasting room for the distillery. And adding an AP onto that, just the OLCC essentially said, we don't even want to figure out if you can do this.
It's
so
just too much.
Figure something else out.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So my brew house and my tanks were moved in and hooked up by August. And the entire period from August up until our launch on January 6th of all days, that was all just trying to license the new brand. That was really the only holdback we had. So what we ended up doing was supposed to be a stopgap, and now it's something that's working out so well, we may just end up keeping it in the long run, which is essentially I finally emailed the OLCC and I said, okay, so the issue is you don't want to have another license in the building. So what if Calapooia co-packs for me? But I also work for Calapooia, and I'm the Calapooia employee that does all of the co-packing for my brand.
Is that trying to clean things up or make it so complicated they just go, fine.
So they're almost verbatim. The response from the OLCC was like, oh yeah, that's legal. And then we don't have to do anything. You should do that. last I've ever heard from. So I work for Calapooya as the sole brewer and packager for New Spring products. And New Spring makes all of its revenue in licensing fees to Calapooya, which happen to be just about the exact same amount as Calapooya makes on the New Spring brand.
Okay, so back a little bit. When the whole thing was going on with Flat Tail, were you planning on starting a new line?
I was planning on living under a bridge, and seeing how that worked out for a while, and then maybe upgrading from the bridge to like selling bicycles at an REI or something.
That sounds good. Well, why would you start a new brand? I mean, if it were me, I'd be like, I don't want to do this ever again. This didn't go well. Yeah, I want to get out and try something different. That's not this.
So that was definitely the first couple months after we got the equipment out of the old Flat Tail building. It was really hard to move past that stage of just kind of, fuck this. Why would I ever possibly run a brewery again? Because like that sucked. You know, and it's one thing to like build something big that pays you a reasonable living and then have to give it up and walk away break even. But this was not that. This was like all of the leftover debt. I've never paid myself more than 20 grand in a year as an owner of Flat Tail, you know, so it was kind of like I got a couple herniated discs and a lot of debt out of 10 years of working 100 hours a week. And at first that was the motivation to never go back to it. And then that kind of turned into the motivation to do it all over again, but differently.
Okay.
And I also had a lot of really good friends that just kept on me and wouldn't let me apply at Texaco.
I mean, it would be kind of a waste, man, because you do make good beer, and it just, what do you think now that all that's behind you, what do you think was the sort of the reason you didn't move forward far enough with Flat? What happened? Oh,
well, the things I will talk about.
Yeah.
A lot of it came down to branding. You know, when we started Flat Tail, I think because the industry has changed so much, so many times over the last decade, people forget that in 2010, we still had to convince people to try craft beer, you know, even in Oregon. It wasn't like people walked into a bar and there were 20 IPAs and 5 other beers worth drinking on tap at all times. It was like you had Coors Light, Bud Light, Miller Light. There would be 10 handles dedicated to different versions of the same shitty macro lager. You know, that's the era that we sort of launched in. And so our founding ethos was like, let's make crazy experimental boundary pushing beers in a football themed sports pub.
Yeah.
And the goal was to draw people in that wouldn't normally drink craft beer and expose them to awesome craft beer. Yeah. And then after like 2 to 3 years, you know, more people were drinking craft beer than macro lager in the state. And suddenly having a football college themed sports bar with, you know, a no boil African cola nut cherry sour, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense because people, you know, come in wanting to drink the sours or, you know, some 100% wheat oak smoked Grotzer, and then they'd be like, why is there black and orange on all the walls? And like, I don't feel comfortable. And for me, it was strange too, because I've always, well, not always, I've been into sports since I was in high school, but the sports I've been into have been like rock climbing and motorcycle racing and stuff like that, rugby, that, you know, no one in Oregon or anywhere else in the United States gives 2 fucks about any of those sports. So it was this brand at odds. You know, you walked into the building and it didn't make sense. And I think that really bled through into our package branding and into just the overall perception of Flat Tail as a brewery. You know, you can go on Untapped, and our GABF gold medal winning American sour has like a 3.4 rating. I couldn't sell that beer to save my life. You know, we beat the Rare Barrel, love you, Jay. We beat Jester King in these categories year after year after year with a 5.99 22 of a live mixed culture series of sours. and we couldn't sell it. You know, we'd offer half barrels at $200 of these beers, and we'd be sitting on 30 barrels for 6 months.
I remember that story, man. You were I think you even told it on the show first or whatever, and I couldn't believe it. That makes no sense. But then also, you sort of can. Like, doing the show for long enough, you sort of understand a little bit about how fickle the industry can be. But that was the first time that I had proof firsthand that GABF metals really don't sell beer as much as we think that they do.
Yeah, it sells beer for brands that are established and trendy. You know, I think if I won a medal now, it would mean more than the 5 that I won at Flat Tail.
Yeah.
Hands down. And it could be like a bronze and cream ale. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter at all. So your friends pushed you back into it, which is good. Like I said, you make good beer, man. You know your way around the industry. You know what to do. No, not great, but it's good. It's good for braising certain meats in, slug
lamb,
bait. Yeah. But don't drink it. So, New Spring. That's your new brand. Tell me a little bit about that. How'd you get to that? Very positive, outlooky, position in your life? A lot of yoga, I guess.
Yeah, still can't touch my toes. I've been meaning to try that yoga thing for a while. No, it was a combination of overall theme, which was this kind of rebirth. This, like, I've been through so much fucking shit at this point in my life that I really, really just wanted a brand that focused on this is new, this is something different, and not just from a branding and packaging point, but from the way I'm approaching beer styles I brew, and also for me personally, like, just kind of signifying this isn't the last 13 years of my life in this industry. This is now. It's starting over. And I've always been a big spring and summer person. I hate it when it's dark out. I don't mind the cold and the rain and all that, but I just hate darkness. And this thought of, like, this kind of blooming into this new chapter in my life, and also the fact that the first 27 names I came up with had already been trademarked. Yeah, that's what got us there.
Well, I feel like embracing the positivity is a really good thing. And, like, obviously you've been through a lot. Like, just turning the page and saying, hey, I'm moving forward, and I'm moving forward in a positive way. It's got to be uplifting.
It's been a game changer. I mean, I know everyone knows me as, like, the salty old fuck even when I was 22, but it's strange and wonderful and also a little bit weird to for the first time sort of feel again like I did when I was that young brewer who thought JP and Justin and Bevo were, like, the coolest people in the world, and not just some douchebags that I used to hang out with before a viral pandemic shut the world down.
Yeah. And Bev.
And it's awesome because I'm stoked to brew. I'm stoked to be here. Today's a perfect example. Like, it's one of those days where, like, everything goes right and you're in the groove and you're hitting all your marks. That was not today. Today was the exact opposite of that. I came into a pump that was not leaking yesterday, that was leaking. I came into a gasket that blew out on the bottom of my hot liquor tank. So I had to completely dump all of my hot water, refill it, heat it back up, instantly 2.5 hours behind. Then I had to rebuild the pump seal and head gasket. So, like, I'm going to be here till midnight. And then I have to be at Yahat's by 9 a.m. tomorrow for a meeting and a brew prep. And then I brew over there on Wednesday. And 1 year ago, 2 years ago, this would have been one of the shittiest fucking days ever. But you know what? I'm making beer, so life doesn't suck that bad. And it's been a major paradigm shift for me. And I'd like to say it's about more than just that the new brand has been really successful out of the gate. But it's all of that. It's starting over. It's the support from friends, the support from fans, especially, BN listeners have been emailing me Suicide Watch style for like 8 months now.
Nice,
and
man.
To everyone who reached out, whether I remembered to respond or not, seriously, that meant a lot. I feel good, and I'm really, really excited about this project and everything going forward.
Good. Well, and I don't want to, really dig too far deep, but it is sort of, I don't know, to me, that's the interesting story is the rebound back, because it is a rebound. It's, you have gone through this sort of Greek tragedies worth of events, and then now you're coming back, you're arcing back into something you have control over and something that's very positive, whatever. But when you first approach your wife about that, as your partner, right? How did she respond to that? Was she like, dude, stop, you're killing yourself, like, let's just whatever, or was she goosing you forward?
Little column A, little column B.
Okay.
I know I've talked about that in the past, and how one of the worst parts of this whole nightmare has been dragging Emma through it.
Yeah.
Because, she's a passionate teacher. She's like one of those Disney teachers that's always smiling and jumping around the room, getting kids excited. And owning a brewery was never her dream. So to have it go down in flames so horrendously, and then couple that with the fact that, it's hard to get kids stoked about being fit and being in control of their health at a young age when you're trying to get them to do that from a computer screen.
Right.
I'd be working from home in the office, and I'd hear her doing, squats and push-ups and jumps and jogging in place and all this stuff on TV, shouting at her kids, trying to get them motivated. And she's working her ass off, knowing that at 5 p.m. we have to talk about the fallout of this closed business. And so it was really hard. I won't pretend like the past, 8-9 months haven't been the hardest of both of our lives. But there was a big shift when all of this input from friends and advice, I didn't do this by myself. I've been asking industry cohorts every step of the way. And that was another big difference. Is I've always been the kind of guy that said, if I can't do it by myself, I'm not going to do it, and I don't need your help because you're busy and I'm not wasting your time. I need to figure this out on my own because it's my fucking fault that I am where I am. And shifting my view on that and saying, no, I have this amazing network of, leaders in the industry that are some of my best friends. Why am I not using that? Why am I not reaching out and asking them for input? What do you think about this branding? What do you think about this idea? And so once I started getting involved, and Emma was able to kind of see the progress in a very different way than it has been before, and see me excited for the first time in a long, long time, she started getting excited.
Okay.
And, she's a teacher. She's off for 3 months out of the year. So she's excited to, start working for the brewery for the first time and really actually be a part of the brand too. She's right there.
She's on the branding there, huh? Nice.
Yep.
I think we were both nervous, obviously, going into it, excited,
yeah,
much more positive than we thought we would be, but also nervous because you never know. If we had canned that first batch and gotten 3 orders, that would have been real hard. But when we're sold out of everything in the first 10 days and we've got the next batch practically sold out before it's even canned, it was like, oh shit. Like we actually made something work this time.
Yeah. You have a thing going right now that people are excited for. Why do you think that is? I mean, I'm not, it sounds like an insult, but it's not. Like, is it because it's a new brand? Is it because of the branding? Is it because of people like you, or they just now decided to give you money? Like, why do you think you're successful now with this?
I think it's all of those things. I do think the branding is probably one of, if not the biggest single factors. Our branding at Flat Tail sucked.
I'm glad you're saying it, because here's a list that I have.
Really
all of these
bad.
notes.
I mean,
we're going to go through every label. I'm going to tell you what was wrong. No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, good. Can't wait.
Yeah. It'll be helpful
with all of them.
Yeah.
And that's something you can't just like have shitty labels for 10 years and then have a good label and have it all be fixed. So getting that fresh start was a huge part of it. We've always had good community support, but that, that conflicting kind of ethos that we talked about earlier made it hard to get the unilateral support that you need to really build and maintain momentum. We'd have some releases like our El Guapo, the Cucumber Habanero Lime Blonde every summer. People would go apeshit over that, and then they'd go back to 2 stars on this Kolsch that spent 8 weeks in tank. So I think the branding was big. One of the biggest comments that I've gotten from bars and bottle shops that I've been selling beer to for over a decade now was, thank God you finally have a fucking package to match what's inside of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of accounts are really hand selling this because we've had relationships for a long time and because they're able to now. It's super hard to convince someone, hey, check out this beer. It's got all these metals. It's awesome. And yeah, the label looks like it was made in MS Paint, but just don't look at that. Just pour it into a glass. Well, it's like people eat with their eyes. They drink with their eyes too.
Yeah.
I mean, so being able to,
even Anchor Steam just revamped their label. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah.
And I think it looks cool. It's different. I'm not sold on it, but there is something that is kind of like nostalgic about that old Anchor Steam. But if a company like Anchor Steam, you know, has to feel that they have to rebrand in order to regain a foothold or whatever.
The makers of Coastal Common and Brownie Brittle. Oh wait, no, that was Full Sail.
Yeah, I was like, I've never heard of either of those things, man.
Did Anchor Steam get acquired by someone?
They did, and then
I
they
think by
a couple of
Sapporo,
times.
right?
Yeah. I don't think so anymore. I don't know. It's hard to say because you also see like some of these really old school, like Portland Brewing Company or whatever just went out of business or whatever. So if you don't adapt and you don't do that, you're going to die anyway. But maybe the step is to understand that first and get out ahead of it.
Sure, absolutely. And you know that's why as we were coming up with this branding and everything, there were a lot of ideas that I had that I think would have worked as an exciting, cool new brewery, but they didn't have the ability to go the distance like this one does. And not having to completely reinvent the wheel every time I come out with a new beer, changing a color and a background, very simple style names, you know, no more puns on every single beer I produce.
What?
Yeah, little things like that. I think people like, oh,
how's it?
Can be a little professional too. I can be presidential too, JP. Can.
How is everything?
Something to be said for simplicity, for sure.
How are we going to have a little chuckle in the beer aisle now? You know?
Well, we still can. It just, you know, will be about someone else's douchey pun.
That's fair, man. Well, I like to see it, man. I'm really happy for you. You sent me the pics and you talked to me a little bit about it, and I feel very good for you and Emma, you know, moving forward and doing all this. So, you know, hopefully, fingers crossed, right?
We've got a hazy coming out in a month, so.
All right, well, okay, that's it. So Dave is off the air now. No, I'm kidding. So then, what was the timing with going to you're at Calapooya right now?
Yeah, I'm in the brewery right now.
What's the time? What's
pulling right now?
Nice. What's the timing with launching the beer brand and being in Calapooya? Were you going to do the beer brand first or partner with Calapooya first?
So, well, like I said, originally it was just supposed to be an AP. I did volunteer to help out.
But was it going to be under the Flat Tail brand or this new brand?
Oh, no. It was from the get-go, the idea was to start a whole new brand.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, reviving Flat Tail was never going to happen. And a lot of people are bummed about that, and I get it. You know, that part of my life had a lot of positives too.
Sure.
Kind of. I mean, that's where I, for the most part, built my name. That's where I learned how to be the brewer that I am now. So letting that die is definitely hard. It was emotional, but at the same time, how do I move forward if I have this vestige of everything behind me that I'm clinging to? You know, there's no way to make a clean start while you hold on to the same shit that you just finished finishing.
I think a lot of people are going to understand that's part of your backstory. You know, that if they knew you there, it's like they know you're bringing the good parts forward, just in a different way.
And that's a big part of it too. Is, you know, I'm still the same Dave. While I am bringing some new techniques in and brewing styles that I never brewed before at Flat Tail, I'm the same brewer. But the other thing is, you know, Flat Tail was 202 Southwest 1st Street. It was. So much of that pub was the people that had been coming in and sitting at the bar for 10 years.
Ugh.
10 years is a long time to have the same bar top and the same people sitting there every day.
Yeah.
And there's no way to separate the building, the location, the community from the brand. And I think it would really cheapen everything that we did do right there and the community that we built there by saying, okay, we're just going to put it somewhere else. So Flat Tail's gone. It's done. It's dead. And that's okay because there's something new and it's very different. You know, I don't have a restaurant. I don't have a pub. I have no interest in doing that part of the business ever again. You know, managing 35 employees from the kitchen to front of house to managing management, and then also making beer alone and packaging all the beer alone in the brewery. While I'm not necessarily working fewer hours right now, it's definitely very different.
Are you paying yourself? Are you making a little money?
Yes, I do get paid now.
See, that's all that matters, man. That's so cool. I mean, and you know, you told me that the other day, and I'm like, wow, you haven't really been a brand very long, and you're already getting paid. And that
it's actually something you need to do in this business. I mean, a lot of people don't do it, and then you end up, you know, suffering for years.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know something about this.
I get paid more working at the brewery I don't own, but I do get paid working at the brewery that I do own.
Sure.
So.
Right.
So you're winning on both sides, baby.
Exactly. Double.
Let me take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to start opening some beer and talk a little bit about new spring beers, what you're doing over at Calpullia, and, you know, all that kind of fun stuff. Okay?
Awesome.
All right. Everybody,
go turn this pump off.
Yeah, turn the pump off. It's the session. Hang on, everybody. We're going to be right back.
Segmented, demented, fermented. It's the session.
Hey, thanks for hanging on, everybody. This is the session. We are with Dave, formerly from Flat Tail, but now from New Spring Brewing. Hi, Dave.
Hey, JP.
Hi, buddy. We cracked your cherry almond imperial porter.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Tell me a little about this beer, please.
So, this beverage starts with a base malt, Simpson's Golden Promise, one of my favorite malts in the world. It's got a really dirty, earthy, nutty character to it. I get lots of honey nut Cheerios, along with that kind of traditional English earthiness. And then drew some cues, actually, from JP's Oatmeal Stout. Used light chocolate malt in this beer, just a tiny, tiny hint of rolled oats, flaked barley. Lots of Carafa Special 3, a little bit of dark chocolate malt. So really kind of, I generally stray away from using more than 2 or 3 specialty malts. Mm-hmm. But for this one, I did want to really drive a lot of specific malt flavors. I wanted some fruity flavors to boost the cherry without having it be an over-the-top artificial cherry beer. So a little bit of Special B went in to do that. I wanted it to have a super milk chocolatey background with the light and dark chocolate malts. Particularly light chocolate malt to me gives a like chocolate milk kind of chocolatiness.
Me too, dude. The pale chocolate. And I remember years ago, someone was like, well, it doesn't really taste like chocolate. I'm like, no, it doesn't taste like chocolate, but it's reminiscent of like bitter chocolate. Yeah. Like 80% cacao. Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. And you if you can combine that with some softer malt, a little bit of residual sweetness in there, you can get that sort of milky, chocolatey thing, which is what you achieved here. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. And then 150 pounds of almonds through the mill into the mash.
Wow.
Yep. Fermented with SO4, so an English ale strain. I always, on my big beers, like to start temperatures really cool around 64, 65, pitch the crap out of it and let it free rise up to about 68. And then once the fruit goes in, turn that jacket up to 72. It almost never gets there. But I really don't want the jacket turning on during that last stage of fermentation. So primary 65 with a free rise to 68. And then it ended up at around 69, 70 max. During the summer, that'd be a little higher. Just over 80% attenuation, finishes at 1014, starts at 1080 something. You do the math. And then I also, on brew day, I pull off about 20 gallons of wort and boil it up with brown sugar and almond flour. Before boiling it, though, what I do is I take the almond flour and I add a bunch of mash enzyme. And to convert the almond starch into sugar as much as possible. Okay. And then reduce the crap out of it. So essentially I'm making like an almond syrup or almond caramel out of wort, brown sugar, and almond flour. And that goes directly into secondary fermentation along with just over 300 pounds or 350 pounds, almost a pound per barrel of dark sweet cherry puree from Oregon fruit.
Wow.
Jeez, dude. Did you take a breath during that or what? It was just rattling off of like...
The water chemistry is important too. I use a lot of chalk, which is hard to get into suspension in the boil. But the reason I use chalk is to soften that roastiness. And then also in the syrup, there's a fair amount of additional chalk and a little bit of calcium. Reason being, all of that cherry puree, it's really hard to get cherry flavor out of actual cherries in a dark beer without getting a super astringent, acidic kind of end product. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to have that much chalk in for the primary because I don't want the fermentation pH all through primary to be out of whack. So I throw a little extra chalk in with that syrup that goes in after primary started, along with the cherries to balance out the added acidity of the cherries. And I think it definitely, to me, has a very vinous mid-palate, kind of like cherry wine, if you've ever made that at home. Mm-hmm. But I think any more cherry, and you end up getting tart, astringent, and as soon as you have anything astringent or overly acidic on the palate in a beer with this much roasted malt, I think it also boosts the acridness and kind of destroys that silky, creamy, chocolatey palate that the almonds really boost too.
Yeah. Okay. And so that chalk is sort of your buffer for that.
Yeah.
Is there a calculation that you did, or you just did it by taste, or you said that's probably enough?
10 years ago, I did that math.
Okay. So you have your own like thing.
Yeah, you fill the cup up to here, not here.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right.
And you're targeting you're targeting a little bit higher pH at the end. Is that?
Peter in the chat, Peter Munoz. What's up, Peter? Says, don't almonds have oil? So you added the whole almonds in.
So do hops.
Well, yeah, but I mean, okay. So what you're saying in the Dave way is that it's not an issue and the oil breaks down.
I mean, people are literally adding hop oil directly to the beer. Hop oil is oil.
Yeah, but isn't it different though, because it's like extruded, and I'm assuming that it's water soluble, the hop oils.
I mean, sure, if I were doing like 500 pounds of almonds, that might be an issue. Part of the reason I use the almond flour is because it has a little bit less residual oil content after being dried and everything else as well. But this is a beer that I made for the first time in 2008, I think.
Okay.
As a homebrew, and it was a Cali Common yeast with a low ABV porter and cherries and almonds. So I've done a lot of homebrew batches of this in the early stages, and back then I was definitely concerned about the oil because it made sense.
Yeah,
that's a pretty logical thing to think of. But it never was a huge issue unless you just did the fuck out of it. So dialed back the almonds a little bit, came up with that new process. And the other thing I do with this for both mouthfeel and to kind of preserve the head, even with some presence of oil, is I partially nitrogenate it. A lot of people think that in order to use nitrogen to positively affect a product, it has to be a nitro beer. That's bullshit. Nitro is awesome. You can add, 1 volume of nitrogen as a baseline and then carbonate it to where you normally carbonate it. And you're going to get mouthfeel out of the nitrogen that's in solution in that beer. And it's also going to give you much tighter bubbles. Nitrogen's really hard to force out of solution once it's into solution. So when you have nitrogen in a beer like this, even though, this is packaged at like 2.3 volumes in tank. So in the can, we're talking 2.1 relatively out of a Wild Goose canning line. And I opened this right when the show started, and you can still see those slow bubbles And those slow bubbles, a lot of that is nitrogen. Slowly coming out of solution, keeping that head alive, even though the beer's got oil from the almonds, full of fruit, so it's going to be low protein.
That is a good point because, like I said before the show, I popped my can on accident. So this can has been sitting open for an hour. And it looks just like yours. Like when you held your glass up, it looks the same. If not better, because I just imagine my beer is always better than yours. But so there's no problem.
That's really interesting. I always thought that if you're going to do nitro cans, you had to like put the nitrogen in the can and like go through that process. But you actually just carved the beer with CO2 and nitrogen and then canned it.
Yeah,
you're still hanging on to a little of that.
If you want to get the cascading effect, the waterfall, you have to either have the widget, or you have to dose it with liquid nitrogen.
Right.
That pressure. And then you have to shake the shit out of it before you pour it if it's just dosed. And that, again, is because nitrogen's so hard to get out of solution. I mean, when you think about what a nitro faucet is, it's a normal faucet with a tiny disc full of pinpricks in it. And the beer is forced through those teeny tiny holes. The whole point is that the nitro stays in solution, but that forces the CO2 out of solution and gives you that cool looking waterfall. So if our goal is not to force CO2 out of solution, but rather just have a blended gas in solution for both the mouthfeel and the head retention, then we don't have to worry about that cascade effect or anything we need to do in order to get it. And it also allows you to have a little bit more of perceived gas levels without getting that sparkly, prickly mouthfeel that, to me, just destroys dark beers.
Well, thank you for that, first of all, because I hate that shit with dark beers, man. Like, you can, there's some, I've had some really great dark beers before, but they have that acrid, they have that prickly thing, and it's on the edge, and it's just it's like a scratch on your glasses. Like, but I'm thinking about it now because I have one right on my line of sight, like right on my pupil, and I can't fucking stop. I can't stop. Or like a scratch on your soft palate, right? Where you can't stop fucking with it. I've had a splinter
in my long johns since 6 o'clock this morning, and I'm just about ready to cut one of the legs off. So I
exactly right. It's just it's like, this is really enjoyable, but that thing out there sucks. That's really cool, man. With the nitrogen, man, I like that. It's a good beer. I don't really get a whole lot of almonds, though. So I have two questions. Number one, have you tried doing it without the almonds and just doing the almond powder? And number two, what are you getting from the almonds that you're not getting from the almond powder?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can we move on now?
Yeah. Okay.
I've never done this on a commercial scale prior to this batch.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to up the mash almonds on the next round. It has, to me, I get a little bit of like an almond liqueur hint on the nose and at the very end of the finish. It is very subtle for sure. I'm very happy with the base beer, but I do want to up the perceived almond character a little bit. I don't think I can up the amount of cherry without adding an essence or an extract without ruining the palate overall. The almond I do want to up because I think it'll actually continue to improve the mouthfeel without adding sweetness. And I would like a little bit more almond. What I've done in the past is actually use Noyo to get the almond flavor. The problem is Noyo is extremely hard to make by hand. So Noyo is basically, the original amaretto was not made with almonds. It was made with the kernels of stone fruit, particularly apricots.
Okay.
So if you take the pit out of an apricot and you crush it open with a nutcracker, what's inside is called a bitter almond. It looks just like an almond, but it comes from stone fruit. And if you roast it and soak it in booze, you get amaretto.
Okay.
And it has an extremely intense aromatic almond liqueur quality to it. When we did our first, we did a collaboration with the webcomic Cyanide and Happiness at Flat Tail called Cyanide and Hoppiness.
Yeah. Good pun.
The pun was that it did technically have trace amounts of cyanide because we used Noyo.
Okay. All right.
To get enough Noyo just to have the tiniest of flavor impacts, I paid an intern to crush apricot pits after we, de-apricotted them for 18 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Over 2 shifts. He was basically just sitting there with a nutcracker and a bottomless beer cracking apricot kernels for 2 days straight. And he wanted to murder me good and hard after that. And we got just enough to maybe kind of sort of taste it. So that's not a process that I want to do again, other than for a barley wine I'm making that's going to make Chris Rogers real happy. So that's another story. Anyway, so I think I'm going to start by increasing the amount of almonds in the mash.
Okay.
The almond syrup was cool, and I think it added a little bit, but the third degree burn to flavor ratio was a little higher than I want for practice. I'm going to do more than once.
Yeah, I feel like you're sort of an at-risk person anyways. Why would you pull some? So the
only way I know.
Yeah. Well, why not just do the almond flour? Do you really think that you get something from adding whole crushed almonds in the mash? I don't know why I'm beating this topic to death because it's really interesting though. I don't know why.
You can definitely taste the almonds in the wort.
Okay.
For sure. And one of the things I've noticed is even though this beer is only 19 days old, the almond aromatics have dropped off a cliff for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's getting swallowed up by, because it's an English yeast and there are a lot of fruity esters. And then the cherry has that real deep cherry wine character to it. I think the subtleness of the almonds is the first to go as the generally perceived fruitiness climbs up. Okay. So I think if I increase the almonds and keep everything else the same, that'll linger a little bit longer. At least that's the goal.
Okay. Well, I think it's good, man.
I almost want you to put the almonds in a hot back or something.
Right.
Have the wort go through them on the way to the fermenter.
Yeah. The only thing I'm worried about with that
boil,
is starch is a big concern for me with the almonds. But I guess if I enzymed the almonds first.
Enzyme, starch.
Yeah. Something like that. I like where you're going, though. I could first wort nut the beer.
Yes. First nut, baby.
First nut.
Yeah.
Yep.
Take that. That's that flat tail, comedy coming right zip in, man.
Still me, baby.
You can take the flat tail out of Dave, but you can't take the
something or else,
or maybe the other way. I don't know.
Yeah, you can put the first nut in the wort, but you can't take the wort out of the first nut.
I don't like where it's going.
No, neither do I.
But once a nut, always a nut.
That's right.
Oh,
what are we drinking next, Teresa? I'm letting Teresa dictate. So we have a double IPA and an Imperial Stout left, which is, first of all, you didn't send me anything that I would enjoy drinking. And I don't like that.
I did have a Pilsner for you, and then I kind of forgot to bring it home from Yachats.
So I got all the beers today, and I'm looking through. I'm like, wow, there's 2 4-packs. Dave hooked it up. We're going to have a long night. It's going to be great. And then Teresa's like, well, I don't know. I mean, there's a double IPA or a stout or this porter. I'm like, well, I mean, did I get different beer now? So I'm pulling them out. No, I got 3 double IPAs.
I meant to ship Teresa more double IPA.
Mm-hmm. But I got your double IPA, Teresa.
Dave, thank you. I'm so psyched. I got all these beers.
I'm not.
Yeah,
have mine.
I have a 4-pack of this new spring 2X IPA.
Yeah. Teresa got 4. I got 3. I'll drink
with water, and it's a 32-ounce can for you now.
Ooh, I do have a lot of seltzer water. Hell yeah, dude! I'm gonna turn this 16-ounce can into 5 session IPAs, dude. It's gonna be great.
I don't make seltzer anymore, thank you. That was a dark period of my life. I don't need to go back there.
You don't do seltzer anymore?
Well, I might make seltzer.
Yeah. Is seltzer still
not currently at this moment brewing seltzer? That's beer.
Is seltzer still dominant? Not dominant, but double hazy IPAs
I don't
are
think
dominant.
It's going anywhere right away.
No.
Oh, people are loving their seltzer. It's our number 3 beer.
It's our number 3. So
we figured out it's the number 3 beer.
That's I guess my question.
Do you make seltzer too?
Has it tapered?
I went into the dark side quite some time ago.
Right.
But you and I should talk seltzer because I love our seltzer because it's it's like not totally shameful. It's pretty good.
Are you fermenting it, I assume?
Oh, yeah.
Sugar-based?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the new, or actually, has California done what the OLCC just did and decided that cane sugar is not malt again?
No.
What does that mean?
The OLCC decided that the winter of 2020 take 2 would be a good time to make all of the cane sugar seltzers in Oregon questionably legal.
Oh my gosh.
Good job, guys.
That's silly.
So
that's funny.
That sounds like a backtrack.
We're like, we want to make you make seltzer that doesn't taste good. So here we go. Right. We're gonna, California didn't do that. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
We did a really slow, cold cane sugar ferment with a wine yeast, and then fruit puree, and didn't filter, but did fine. It was actually a super long tank time product. I spent 6 to 8 weeks in tank.
Jeez.
And it came out. Yeah, it came out. I actually enjoyed. I did a raspberry lime. They were all 8%, so they were big, high ABV seltzers.
No.
That's why we got to talk, because we figured out a way to do it like.
And it doesn't taste like shit.
And it doesn't taste like shit. It tastes pretty freaking good.
I played around with a ton of different yeast strains. We started with EC 1118, and that had a wonderful flavor profile, but it just took so long. And then we tried the strain that Ninkasi uses, but the problem is they, charcoal filter, and we didn't. So it just
I don't charcoal filter.
Yeah, I don't like throwing bags of charcoal in my break tank.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's me. And then we ended up finding something 23. I think it was a mead yeast was the one I settled on, and then changed up the nutrients a lot. Got away from DAP and went with an organic nutrient, and that helped a lot. But by the time we started really dialing it in, it was 2020. So
yeah.
Well, and what's the problem with seltzers? I mean, because they do sound hard to make, and it doesn't seem like they should, because it's sugar and fucking water.
So, I mean, the biggest problem is that sugar doesn't have any nutrients that yeast need to have. So that's for us, that's been the key. Like, you need to supply the nutrients on a much higher level than you would think. And then you need to really make sure they get incorporated into the wort, and then the yeast can ferment as normal.
Okay.
But you need to, the wort.
Sugar water, right?
The sugar water.
Yeah.
But it's so important to get the yeast to ferment out nicely and to choose the right strain that's really neutral in flavor, or else you end up with something that tastes like super weird. We've kind of settled on a yeast strain that makes ours taste a little bit like white wine, like a really boring white wine.
Yep.
But that kind of, like, once you put the fruit on top of it, it incorporates pretty well.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, seltzers are here to stay. So for me, the joy is to like try to figure out how to do it better and quicker and easier, and have it like just taste that much better.
Have you tried?
It's not everyone's thing, but
have you tried like weirder sugar, like Demerara sugar? I use a lot of Demerara sugar making like syrup for my tiki drinks. I wonder if
haven't, not for a seltzer,
because like a darker sugary, with that kind of like non-fermentable, get the coloring or whatever, the flavoring.
The problem with fermenting any large amount of molasses is you end up getting a really burning rubber kind of character out of it. I actually like brewing dark beers with molasses, but you just have to do it very sparingly, because it immediately goes to metallic. I mean, like a 5-gallon bucket of molasses will ruin a 15-barrel batch of beer like that, because it tastes like pennies instantly, and if you use too much, you start going to burning rubber and matches.
But Demerara sugar has, I mean, it's a little bit on there, but it's, I wonder if the balance would be fine.
100% Demerara.
Maybe not 100%, but
to 2% molasses. It's got to be close, would be my thought.
Okay.
I've never fermented straight brown sugar. I'd be down to try it.
Yeah. Well, it's different. Demerara and brown sugar are different.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm not a sugar expert. Excuse me.
Well,
my first accident foray into seltzer-ish was not making a cachaça wash at my house, because that would be illegal to distill things at home, and I don't do that. But I was fermenting some cane sugar and got it up to about 21, 22%. And one of the things that struck me was that this was really just meant to be a wash. But I don't like doing anything with distiller's yeast, because distiller's yeast is trash. It's meant to make things fast with no regard to flavor. And I know people say that all of the flavor is distilled away. Well, if all of the volatiles were distilled away, pot stills wouldn't exist, and neither would scotch. So I refuse to believe that a shitty distiller's yeast ferment on something that's not going to be ran through a reflux column 20 times and filtered through, charcoal isn't going to have impact.
Right.
So I did this ferment over a very long period of time with multiple wine yeast strains, racking it off the lees and back onto fresh pitches over and over again. Got it up to a really high degree of attenuation and very high alcohol. And when I was tasting it, I realized this doesn't taste awful. Like, this is kind of cool. It's this like cane wine. And it had a lot of the flavors you get out of a good cachaça. And at the time, it was just like, well, what am I going to do? Start making sugar wine? What the fuck would you call that? And then 5 years later, we have hard seltzer, and I'm thinking, oh my God, the things I would go back
sure one time
and make a commercial batch of this stuff that was fermenting on top of my dryer in my laundry room.
Imagine if
like Teresa's saying, when you use a wine yeast, you can make it taste like a decent wine. We did a strawberry lemonade seltzer that tasted like white Zin.
That sounds pretty good, bro.
Example of a decent wine, but the college kids loved it.
I was going to say, imagine you were the first place to put on a hard seltzer in a college bar.
On draft? In Oregon, maybe?
Yeah, I know, right? That would have been amazing.
We sold the shit out of
no. I mean, you're talking about
half barrels of 8% draft seltzer.
8%.
It was a weird time in my life.
See, 5% seltzer, that sounds great to me. I've had a couple where it's 5%. I see it. I get it. I understand seltzer, hard seltzer, more than I understand hazy IPA. That's me. I don't know. I'm, cool is a word for it.
I've learned to love smelling hazy IPAs.
Sure. We could say that, yeah.
I really like smelling them.
Yeah.
And it will never stop being a goal of mine to make a hazy IPA that is so hazy you can't shine a flashlight through it, but has no yeast in suspension, that I not just appreciate and value, but want to drink when I get off work. And I'm hoping it's in the whirlpool right now. I'm gonna have to turn that off again on the next break.
Okay.
But, yeah, to me, a lot of the issues with hazy IPA are not that it is hazy IPA. It's that it was this style that became so popular, no one had time to really root out how to make a good hazy IPA or what a good hazy IPA even is.
Right.
I can't remember who put it out, but there was an article on hazy IPAs and hop burn. And how people are making these beers that are so intensely hopped that it literally burns as you're drinking it. And I feel like you can make hazy IPA without doing that, and also without having so much yeast in suspension that you have to run to the bathroom 15 minutes after your first pint. I mean,
oh God. I mean, if your hazy IPA is hazy because of yeast or because of hop particles, then you're not doing it right.
But I mean, I do feel, and I see what you're saying, and definitely I was on that train of this is just awful even before really caring about understanding it. But I feel like that's sort of any new style where you had Imperial everything or quad IPAs or Belgian quads or whatever. They came, or the Belgian IPAs, or you know what I mean? Where people tried to do a thing and it took off and nobody really understood what it was. And then they figured out how to make it, and then with all those other ones, they sort of fell by the wayside after the problem was solved. But hazy IPAs have sort of really drug in the sort of normie beer drinking crowd. That is sticking. That's here to stay. Like Brute IPA, where'd that go? People solved the puzzle, and then that was it. No one cared anymore. It was just a thing to do.
Well, that's it. You know, how long have we been making Pilsners? And
not long enough.
Sure. Like there's been long enough of a history of brewing Pilsner and ESB that it's pretty easy to say that is or isn't a Pilsner or ESB.
Yeah.
You know, you take raw 2-row and ferment it at 60 degrees with a Cali Common strain and then hop it with Willamette and call it a Pilsner, that's not a Pilsner. But if you take any number of base malts or any number of different hop varieties, or any number of different yeast strains, you can make a hazy IPA. So maybe the issue isn't so much that it exists, it's that we need to start defining it. And I think this also goes back to something you and I have both harped on over the years, JP, which is like, don't call it a West Coast IPA. Don't call it a juicy IPA. Call it a New England style IPA, because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, I had my 10-year-long diatribe against non-Kolsch because I was so worn out over people saying, you know, well, your Kolsch is okay, but like it's not hoppy enough. And it's really clear. And like I had this, you know, Kolsch out of Hood River that's like cloudy and it's dry hopped with Cascade. It's like, cool. You had a blonde ale. And now, because all these people dig this blonde ale, they think my Kolsch is not a Kolsch. And that kind of stylistic confusion is good for no one. It absolutely is detrimental to the industry. But on the flip side, we have to realize that people want to drink these fucking beers. So we either, you know, when Chuckanut starts dry hopping shit with Citra, I'll brew a fucking hazy IPA and I will brew the shit out of it. You know, because that's what people want to drink. So I want to be the best at making that beer so that people can drink the best example of that beer. You know, I just had the first ever pastry style beer that I have enjoyed in my life. And it was a, what?
No. I can't do those either, man. But there's like a 10% of those beers, maybe 15. I can go, I get a flavor that I enjoy. But the rest of the math, whatever the math is, the beer, 85%, sucks. It just fucking sucks.
And I want to be that 10%. And, you know, I used to be totally on the same page. Like, I'll never fucking brew this style because it's garbage and it's not real beer. And I drink ESBs and Pilsners because I'm an American brewer and I do it right. And then my buddy Steven from Cold Fire, Steven and Dan being two of those people that were massively encouraging and instrumental in my, you know, rebirth. They made this beer called Coinamon, and it was based on some French pastry that I don't understand. It's got a bunch of cream or something. Anyway, beer finishes at like, I think you said 1024, which is actually somehow like not that sweet for a pastry stout.
Okay.
But by my standards of brewing, like 1024 that's a beer that's not finished. That's a beer you need to repitch.
Right.
And that being on the drier side of pastry stouts, you know, is part of the issue. But when I drank this beer, the first thing was obviously trying to keep an open mind. And the way I went at it was like, I'm not a dessert guy, but I like dessert sometimes. And so thinking about this as the goal of this is to make a drinkable but purposefully sweet beer. And the aroma on this thing, I mean, it was like a caramel-covered vanilla bean cup with like a pat of choux on top. I mean, it was just this incredible burst of real vanilla and caramel and all of these wonderful aromas and flavors all soaked in like whiskey. I mean, it smelled amazing.
That sounds great.
Yeah. And 11%. So it's very high alcohol. You know, I split it with Emma because it's not a beer that I want to drink a pint of. But
No.
In the setting of like right after dinner, almost as an aperitif, and as a beer that replaced dessert, it was awesome. And that was a big game changer for me because, if I can enjoy a pastry stout, maybe I can learn how to enjoy these other styles. And it doesn't mean that I have to drink hazy IPA every night or make milkshake smoothie sours every month, but it does mean I'm going to play around with it. And I guess just be a little more patient with some of the styles that I have not been a big advocate for in the past.
Well, that sounds boring to me. Let's take a quick break. Okay, you got to go turn your pump off, Dave. This is the session. We'll be right back.
You're tuned into The Session.
Because life's too short to listen to crappy radio.
Thanks for hanging on, everybody. We are back with Dave from New Spring Brewing and Yachats and, maybe something else. I don't really know. We'll talk about that in a second. But I just opened a double IPA, and I hate myself. Oh, on the bottom of the cans, it says, same Dave, New Spring. Oh, that's so nice. Canned on the 6th,
could be a Gary Busey reference, so I'll get back on track.
Is it? Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah, have you guys watched Gary Busey Pet Judge? Because if you haven't, you need to.
No, I haven't, man.
Oh, yeah.
I have not.
In advance.
All my Gary Busey references are from Point Break. I'll have to branch out.
I don't have any. I feel like I've shortchanged my life.
Yeah, you need to fix that.
I have Cable Guy references and Love Guru references, and that's about it. And like Mr. Sensiator references. Oof. What do you mean, ugh? First of all, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it the other day.
Reference.
Cable Guy and the Love Guru are the top 2 greatest comedies of my generation.
Bold.
Yeah.
Bold statement.
All right, tell me about your...
I don't know if I'd hang my hat on that statement.
When you're as bald as I am, you don't hang your head anywhere. It stays on your head. Tell me about your double IPA here, David.
60-40 Simpson's Golden Promise, Raw 2-row. I'm a Golden Promise nut, like I said, but in IPAs, I don't like to use 100% because that earthy nuttiness can kind of get in the way of the hops a little bit. It's mash hopped with Amarillo, and then in the boil, it's about 75% Amarillo, 25% Citra, and then dry hopped with Citra and just a hint of Mosaic. And USO5 standard West Coast ale yeast.
You're a dry yeast boy?
Yeah. I used to hate the stuff, and then I used it.
Man, you're learning a lot, and I don't like it. You're growing as a person. You're leaving me behind.
I don't just hate things because it's easy to anymore. I actually have to have a reason.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, dry yeast used to be trash. And that is a fact. It was really bad for a long time. But a number of suppliers have started making excellent dry yeasts. And not in every strain. I have yet to find, for example, a decent Kolsch strain in a dry format. Lallemand sells one. I think it's Lallemand, the K97, which they bill as suitable for German-style Kolsch or Belgian wit beer.
No. What? Well, I always repeat this. I think Chris White said it once, I don't know, during the hunt for the, dry yeast central is dry yeasts are picked for how well they rehydrate, not necessarily the flavors. So you got to find one that comes back first.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, does this match? What flavor, profile does this match? So I think that's why it's really hard that we don't have so many dry. You can't just dry a liquid yeast and rehydrate it. You go, okay, there it is.
I mean, I definitely USO5 when properly pitched is indistinguishable from Cal Ale.
Yeah.
Same with SO4, great 007 replacement. I love the S189 lager strain, the Danish lager.
Was he the DJ on In Living Color?
Wait, what?
That was SW1. Never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
It
was a joke. It was a JP joke. Leave me alone. Just keep going.
Okay, right. Anyway, S189 is great. The W, I think it's 24/70, something like that. 2430, 3470.
Yeah.
Stefan clone is also awesome. And then, there are a bunch of garbage dry yeast strains out there too. But if you try them and if you get used to how they have to be pitched, some honestly like to be sprinkled on the top of the wort without hydration. Some produce massive phenols if you do that, and they have to be rehydrated and dosed in liquid form. But either way, we back in, I think it was 2014, made it to the final round in American Pale with a US 05 APA. And that was, to me, like, okay, well, can't suck that bad. Not to mention when it's a trade-off, because do you want to use the appropriate yeast strain for every beer you brew and not limit what you brew based on what you have at the bottom of your cone? Or do you want to be a liquid yeast only brewer and you make nothing but West Coast ale or English ale? Because I want to make lagers and I want to make Belgian beers and I want to make all of this stuff. So, the US 05 strain, I usually get 3 to 5 gens out of a dry pitch that costs me $120, as opposed to an $800 pitch that I get the same number of generations out of. And then that means if I want to do a classic Belgian white, like I'm doing in March, I'm going to get the right liquid yeast pitch for that, because I haven't found a good dry version. And I don't care if I spend $500 on a pitch I'm never going to use again, because I've kind of built that into my cost with all of the main beers I'm producing.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So a Belgian wit you're going to do, what is it going to be, fucking 29% alcohol?
4.
Oh, really?
Maybe 4.5.
Do you ship to California?
Yeah, I'll ship you some.
Thanks, man. I will literally buy some from you.
Well, you don't have to do that. That'd be weird.
No. I want to do it.
I'm still not quite used to the making money thing, so.
Don't want to get too crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. What do we think about this double IPA, Teresa? You talked to me about this. You brew IPAs. I've done it once and it sucked.
This it's right up my alley. I really love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. It is very dry for a double IPA, is it not?
It's the right amount of dry.
Is it?
I mean,
okay.
it has to be kind of dry, or else it's overly malty.
I mean,
do you do any dextrose in this?
Let me just
try it out.
A point of clarification. I'm used to double IPAs from like the late 90s, early 2000s, where they were like, oh, there's crystal malts. Put a lot of crystal malt in here because we really need a lot of body and some sweetness to really carry through the hops.
Oh no!
And
crystal
I
malt
haven't.
And hops are the worst fucking combination in the world. I will take a hazy IPA any goddamn day of the week over an IPA with caramel malt in it. I mean, the like co-oxidative, I don't know if that's a word, but the way caramel malt and hops oxidize together is horrendous. I mean, it's like, that's how you make cardboard box in a can. Yeah. And it's funny because I keep having people comment about how dry this is. And one of those pieces of advice I got from a lot of my brewing friends, mentors, whatever you want to call them, was like, Dave, we know you like all of your beers to be 95% attenuated, but like you have to stop packaging everything at 1 Plato or less. And so like this was hard for me. I actually mashed above 150 for the first time in years. So this finished at 1010, which is probably the sweetest double IPA I've ever packaged, though I do understand that that's not sweet for most. I might go up to 1012 next time.
Well, that's great. My 8.5% IPA goes to 1006. So it's this is right
as it should be.
This is where it is in for me. So.
I think the Golden Promise helps it carry the body a little bit too. Like it allows me to be a little bit drier than the normal 1014, 1016. Also, the new setup with the kettle, even though it's the same burner, same kettle, we get a less vigorous boil over here. And I'm still debating whether or not I want to change that, because what it's done on the negative side is at Flat Tail, after the first ever batch we did on the 15 barrel, I never put hops in the kettle before knockout again, ever. because our utilization in that kettle was so insane. Like a 2-pound addition at 30 was like 100 IBUs. It was just beyond belief. We would make bitter beer if we had any amount of bittering or flavor, traditional flavor addition. But if we threw it in right at the end of the boil, we still managed to extract a decent amount of bitterness, etc. In the new location, this is the first time I've done a 15-minute addition, since I was on a 6-barrel. And I think a lot of the double IPAs these days get a lot of their mouthfeel and that perceived thickness from heavy kettle additions. A perfect example for me would be like Sticky Hands from Block 15 is a cult classic double IPA. And that's not a super sweet beer, but it sticks to your tongue. It's mouth coating. You feel the hop resin when you drink it. And my guess is that that's because they're using far more kettle additions than I am. And you're getting that kind of hop mouth feel more than you can just from Whirlpool and dry hop.
Well, I think that's what you have here. I mean, you're talking about the feeling the resin and all that kind of shit. That's what I have in my mouth right now. Like I can't get away from.
You hate hops.
Look, I don't hate hops. I just don't like them a whole lot. I don't like. For me, these are fine. Look, the beer's fine. It tastes great, whatever. But it's just too much alcohol because I want to drink a lot of them.
Compliment for an IPA I have ever gotten from you.
I want to drink a lot of them, but I can't at 8.5%. I'm not going to do it.
You can.
Well, yeah, no, I can't drink a lot of them. No, I can't.
You and your small child will have more in common by 9 p.m. than you usually do.
Shitting ourselves. It's good. I like it. It tastes like a West Coast IPA. For me, it doesn't taste like an 8.5% beer. And I don't know if that's what you're going for. I imagine it's what you're going for. But again, in my mind, double IPAs have a little bit more sweetness. And to hear that this is finished at 10.10 that's pretty wild, man.
I think the other part about the lack of perceived sweetness, back on, I think the first or second show I ever did with you guys back in Martinez. The second show, because it's the one where Sean
was phone
in the alley. Yeah, the wallet phone night with a can of bean dip.
That's such a good story.
Yeah, and I was puking out the window of my truck on Main Street in your studio.
Drunk on Main, dude.
It's gone by. I don't do that anymore.
No.
Anywho, one of the things I talked about was like in sour beers, because the subject was adjuncts in sour and wild ales. And I talked about the barrel as an ingredient, realizing that if your beer's got Brett or Lacto or Pedio, but particularly Brett, and it's in a barrel for a year, that barrel is a fermentable ingredient. You're literally, you have a yeast and bacteria set that is going to digest that wood and give you flavor and mouthfeel. And I think we need to realize that hops are also part of that flavor and mouthfeel, and so is alcohol. So that's the reason, one of the reasons why I pitch cold and allow a free rise, not just on Belgian beers. When we did Little Green, 3.9, I think it was, % dry hop session saison, that beer was pitched at 64 and it finished at 87 on the dot. And that was with the jacket off and tuning that yeast over a long time. But that beer would never have been the same without that free rise. And that was sort of the beginning of my realization that like yeast doesn't like glycol jackets. And, unless you have a really expensive controller that can, pulse your glycol without shocking the tank, if you just have a Ranco like we do, and like most 15-barrel breweries do.
Yeah.
If it's set to 68 and your beer hits 69,
6.
That fucker's full bore.
Yeah.
All through that tank. And the yeast is like, holy shit, it's cold out, but I don't have a jacket. So when you start your fermentation cooler, you really, really reduce higher alcohol production. And then by allowing it to free rise, by the time it gets up to, a normal, like for an IPA, 68 to 70 degree fermentation temperature, you're 2/3 through the ferment. So if it finishes at 72, you're getting the attenuation benefit of that higher temperature without getting fusel production. And that's, to me, is a benefit. And one of the biggest things it does is, because of that free rise, my 8 to 10% alcohol beer tastes like most people's 7. And part of that, though, is the reduction in higher alcohols also reduces perceived sweetness. A little bit of ethyl acetate is horrendous. It's nail polish remover. Mm-hmm. But if you're below the flavor threshold for ethyl acetate, but it's still in there above normal non-wild ale levels, you get rose and you get strawberry and you get perceptively sweet flavors. So because that's not in these beers, the perceived sweetness is reduced. And even though it's not as dry as Teresa's Fantastic 1004 double IPA, which is what I used to always do, people are going to perceive it as drier than it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely wild, man. And has this been out in the wild? Has it been on the market yet?
Yeah.
People like it.
Yep.
All the people bought it.
10 cases out there somewhere in Oregon.
Someplace, I don't know. Who cares anymore? Do you have a distributor, or is that just you?
No. Yeah. Fuck no. Jesus fucking Christ. The last show I did with you guys before the second to last show was literally called Franchise Law and the Death of Craft Beer.
Yeah.
I done did learn my lesson.
There you go, buddy.
I would, if there were any distributor I would ever sign with, ever again, it would probably be Day One. They're doing an awesome job bringing beers, particularly beers from California, into Oregon that deserve to be brought into Oregon. Mm-hmm. The owner of Day One is a super cool dude. He treats beer as it should be treated. If he opened up a branch in Washington, I would consider distributing to Washington. If he reversed the California to Oregon and went Oregon to California, I would consider distributing again in California.
Wow.
Maybe, but
high praise.
As far as Oregon sales, it just doesn't make any sense.
No.
Well, if the white Prius can hold like 80 cases, so
yeah. if you ever sign with him, you should do a beer called Dave One, and that would be really funny.
Just rip off the name of the guy I just plugged. Sure, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave. I got it.
Dave One.
I didn't hear it. It didn't register.
That's all right. My voice tends to go in and out of audible frequencies for humans.
Well, it's just the audible silk that is the sideburns and mustache.
That's true.
Like I can't focus on the actual words coming out of your mouth because I'm just in awe.
I can't tell you like how many this is a constant theme in my life where it's like I'm in a group setting, either on a call or in person, and I say a thing and nobody says anything, and then 2 minutes later someone else says the same exact thing and everyone goes, oh, fuck, that's a great thing you said. It's like constantly.
It became an earworm, but it didn't make it to the brain.
Right.
It was like not.
It happened in my. It happened in my D&D group. It happened in my D&D group the other night. I said something, and then 2 minutes later, someone's like, "We should do this thing." I'm like, "That's what I just fucking said." Mad. Makes me mad. Whatever. Peter Munoz, will the beers make it down to California? But it sounds like not.
As soon as a global pandemic stops ravaging every facet of normal life, I'll be back at the BN festivals for sure.
Yeah.
So you can try it there, but as far as distribution,
no. Peter, come out here. I have 2 cans of double IPA. I'll give you.
All yours, Peter.
Yeah. JP, are you going to be his distributor right now?
Yes.
Honestly, like the whole distribution thing, we have a distributor and we didn't really sign like a full agreement. And I just think that maybe that's going to be a way forward, so you don't have to sign your life away, but you literally are just like, you take my beer if you want my beer. And if I don't want to give you any beer, then you don't get any beer.
The problem is in Oregon and California, once you sell to a distributor, they own your brand rights in that county or state, no matter what the agreement says.
Nope.
Did California change?
I swear to God, we have a 1-page document that says you are allowed to sell our beer.
So
we haven't sold our brand. We just sell them beer.
And I would be interested in continuing this conversation after the episode, but there has been precedent set in Oregon and California that no signed written agreement whatsoever matters at all because it is technically illegal because you can't supersede state law. This happened to Deschutes a number of years ago. It happened to Hop Valley when they had a mutually agreed upon contract with a distributor for a set price if they ever left that distribution company.
Okay.
But because of state franchise law, the distribution company was awarded millions of dollars in excess of that signed amount because the argument was it doesn't matter what we signed. Our signed agreement violates state law, and state law supersedes any independent contract.
That sounds like some sovereign citizenship.
What's
bullshit. Sounds like some sovereign citizen bullshit. It's like, well, America was a corporation.
I mean, like if no money changes hands in this agreement, how can money be recovered or damages?
All I'm saying is me losing in court on this exact issue doesn't mean, but Deschutes and Hop Valley losing in court on this exact issue, exactly what you're describing, it does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yikes.
I mean, there's a reason distributors would accidentally, and good distributors don't do this, but a lot of early Oregon distributors would sell a case in every county in the state just to sell one case.
Oh.
And if the brand didn't say, hey, you're not authorized to sell in this county, a certain amount of time goes by, they say, well, we've been distributing. You can't revoke our rights now. We own your brand statewide.
Wow. But how would they know? I mean, does the distributor report back, hey, we sold a case in this county?
Unless you're completely oblivious to what's going on with your brand, you should know exactly where every single case and keg of your product is sold.
Oh, I would have no idea. I would be like, okay, you got it. There you go. Let me help you load it in the truck. Let me hit that door twice so you know to round up and get out of here. And I'm gonna go.
And I'm gonna go to the bank right now with your check.
Yeah, that's all I care about. Yeah, that's the only reason I'm not a brewer.
Dave, in no way am I trying to say that I know more than you. Like,
no.
I am definitely listening with both ears.
I don't think you are. I just want to make sure you cover your ass.
You're clear, yeah.
I've been down this
Good
road.
for it, buddy.
Yeah, and I've been down the no contract road specifically.
Yeah.
We had no contract with our first distributor, and I had no knowledge of franchise laws whatsoever. I didn't sign anything. We just sent them beer. The distributor that bought our rights from that first distributor paid $75,000 because we could not go back to self-distribution, even though we had no signed contract whatsoever. And we had only been distributing with this first distributor for less than 2 years. When I said I want to go back to self-distribution, they said, cool, it's going to be 6 figures.
Oh my God.
And that held up in court. So
that's wild, dude. That's so fucking wild.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, franchise laws, the fuck are you talking about? I'm just this kid making beer in fucking Corvallis, like talking to my boss. And he did, and it didn't go well.
That sucks, man. Yeah. Well, look, we have one beer from Yahat's.
Let's do it.
And we're going to drink that right now. It's the Devil's Churn Imperial Stout because, as much as of a lover of lagers and low alcohol beers as you and I both are, Dave, you decided to, put your finger right at my butt with this, and I appreciate that.
I mean,
someone's got to do it. Taryn doesn't do it anymore, so yeah.
So Dave, you're moonlighting, daylighting at this place?
What's happening?
So fun story. Like I said, I was brought on to basically help with distribution, kind of interfacing the production team of 2 with the sales team of 1.
Cool.
And then building a platform that could allow, strategic expansion from that point. And then the brewer, Aaron, broke his foot 2 weeks after I got hired.
Oh.
You know why?
Love you, Aaron.
You're like the monkey's paw of brewing or whatever. Like you come in and everything's going to be fine, but then the effects of hiring you catch
thing.
up, right?
It happened.
Yeah, and so they're like, fucking David!
Yeah, so I show up for like my third shift ever there. So I'm out there 2 days a week, and I roll in at like 7:30 or 8 Monday morning, and Aaron's sitting at a table with Jennifer, the GM, and they both got these looks on their faces like, ugh. Like, what happened? Like, fucking tank implode while I was gone? What's going on? And Aaron like puts his foot up, and there's this like blue water balloon attached to his leg where his foot should be. And it's like, hey man, that's really gross. What happened?
Hey, how did you do that, man? Are you going to a special effects school?
Pretty much. In true Dave style, he's like, yeah, I slipped going up the stairs, and now my foot looks like this. So with COVID and everything, it took him like a month to get into the doctor.
Oh, man.
And once he finally got x-rays back, they were like, yeah, your ligaments torn, like there's a bunch of fucked up shit, and you need like a plate and a bunch of screws.
Because of the delay, or it would have happened anyways?
Would have happened anyway.
Well, that's good. At least the delay didn't like exacerbate the issues, but damn.
Well, Aaron is a man that commits. And Aaron committed hard to fucking his foot up. 10 out of 10 for foot injuries.
Nice. I love it. Would do it again.
So I can't remember exactly how long it's been now, but he had to wait weeks in addition to the weeks he waited to get into the doctor to get a surgery date. And the medical staff in Newport just didn't want to give him any info. And they kept saying, like, oh, yeah, it's like surgery. It's no big deal. You'll be good in like a month or two. And, he keeps coming back with like, hey, by the way, I lift 160-pound kegs like all day, every day for my job. And, we were talking to the workers' comp lady, and she's like, well, can you just do it like, part-time? Like, how do you lift kegs on a broken foot part-time? How do you walk upstairs to get to the grain mill?
Part-time.
Like,
yeah.
Part-time. Like, no, we can't fucking do that. Like, I'm the guy that's supposed to sit in the office on the computer. This motherfucker is supposed to lift the grain. So I quickly went from brewery operations manager to brewer. And like sit in his little wheelie chair and show me how to use the system. Because I'm walking in, I've got all these plans to get yachts into multiple can formats and start statewide distribution and then move into multi-state and DTC and all these things. And I'm like, now I have to brew every week.
Oh, man.
I'm the only person that can make beer.
For how long?
Right, until his foot's better.
Yeah, but like...
Currently not.
Okay.
Question mark.
Okay, they don't know.
Awesome with the recovery. He just got one of it, and I think maybe Aaron is texting me right now, so I'm going to look at that. No. Anyway, nope. It's healing well.
Okay.
But it's hard to get a solid timeline when we do what we do. I mean, even washing kegs is strenuous. When you're lifting 100 empty kegs, that's 130-pound empty kegs going up.
Yeah.
So thankfully, we were able to bring back Tannel, an assistant brewer who had to be laid off because of COVID. And just seasonal shit. So Tannel's coming back, and I'm gonna have my first shift with him tomorrow, which I'm really stoked about. Not just to have the other half of the brewing team back, but my hope is, since he has such a long experience previously at Yachats, like I can kind of help Tannel out with a small tweaks and changes that I was planning on training Aaron on. And it's gonna be a little weird because I'll be training the assistant brewer before I train the head brewer, but I'm hoping within the next month or two, we can kind of get back to what it was supposed to be, which is me sitting in the office in slacks, telling them how to do their hard job.
That's right. Pressed slacks, creases down the front of the legs. Yeah, dude. Dockers, essentially dockers.
I'm going to have like 8 pleats in my pants, like every angle. It's going to be an octagonal pleat.
I wish that was the case, man.
Just make sure you have Birkenstocks so you can't possibly brew.
That way,
I'm sorry, but I'm in my sandals.
Open-toed shoes can't do it, but I'll tell you what I will do. Click the mouse. That's all I'm qualified for now.
My entire brewing career, no matter how much shit I've done on the behind the scenes and administrative level, I've always been washing kegs and producing work.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And this was really supposed to be the first time, like, what can I do when I'm not doing that and I'm just focusing on the business?
Yeah, you gotta make that happen because it's gonna be amazing. Like whatever you come up with, not having to.
It'll never happen. He's the Arnold Rimmer of the beer. Like it's just there's so many parallels to like dumb shit that no one knows about. It will never happen for him. It will never happen.
It's going to happen. goddammit.
No, it won't. It'll never happen.
I have an amazing head brewer who knows what he's doing. He's got all the hard shit fucking down pat.
Okay.
He made a 3.5% alcohol dry hopped lager that was delicious.
That sounds great.
3.5% alcohol cranberry sour with lactobacillus, which is one of the hardest lacto strains to work with in the world.
Yeah, don't care.
It was fucking fantastic.
Yeah, that's fine. How far away does he live from the brewery?
Like a mile.
You should get him an armored car to commute to the
bubble suit.
In an armored car because something will happen. I hope it doesn't. Yeah. Anyway, Imperial Stout. Tell me about it real fast here, brother, because we've already taken up like 2 hours of your time.
Aaron brewed before he exploded his foot.
Okay.
And to me, it's almost like if you had an Imperial Irish dry stout minus the acidity, minus that lactic note that comes with the traditional stout. So speaking of dry beers, even though this is 8.5%, it finishes actually at 10.08. So super bone dry.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I get that too.
Lots of dehusked roast in order to get that. You do want a little bit of acridness. You do want a little bit of.
You do, and that's why
I was avoiding in the porter in a stout.
Yeah, I think maybe I don't like stouts or imperial stouts because it's that acrid that I don't dig on too much.
Yeah, I can't like Black Patent.
Yeah,
is my least favorite malt in the world.
Yes, same.
But I also I do enjoy lots of roast barley. To me, roast barley starts to get a little bit of a kind of pleasant, savory quality once it gets into the high realm. This is a pretty good split between light chocolate, dark chocolate, Carafa 3, and roast barley.
I mean, I think what you're doing with this, and Teresa, you can correct me if you have some of this, right?
Oh, I do.
Yeah. Yep. I think what you're doing is right for like an American
Not what I'm doing.
Style imperial stout, right?
I'm the facilitator.
Oh, wait, what are you doing? What are you?
I instigate management.
Facilitating.
Oh, there you go. I think the flavors are right. It's not because of that acrid roasty thing is not. But again, it's in control. It's like medium level for that style. So I think I think the style's good.
Sauce umami.
No.
That's the thing to me. When you use too much roast barley, that's when you start getting soy sauce.
When I exhale in a beer like this, when I exhale and it tastes to me the way the grain smells, if that makes any kind of fucking sense, then I think that's an appropriate level. For me, it's a little too dry, but it tastes great. It tastes great. You have everything in balance for the things, especially now I'm talking about the things I don't like, but that's not what I mean. The flavor is cool. Tasting it as I'm exhaling is that's like a sort of a new thing for me in a beer. And I think that means that you're sort of like layering your flavors really well. I
get a lot of bitter chocolate.
Yeah.
Like baking chocolate kind of character. And then like you're saying, a very true barley. Like on the exhale, you taste barley, and that's what I really like about this.
I taste the roasted grain, the roasted barley. It tastes like smelling the sacks. Mm-hmm. When I used to work on more beer, it's like it tastes like smelling sacks, baby, and
it's a sack sniffer.
Look, we all pick up new hobbies. We all pick up new hobbies, and this is mine. It tastes like a sack of black roasted barley.
Well, and I like there's like. I feel like there's a lot of oatmeal and it gives this like little bit of oiliness in the oatmeal. It's like
about 100 pounds of rolled oats. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I like it, man. So you're doing all their beers, or you just shift
for
brew?
the time being.
That's right. Okay. So you're covering, and then once the homie's better,
I'm the temporary brewer.
You're gonna be sort of like brand. You're gonna be like brand managing, essentially. So
I'm damage control.
Yeah, you're plotting their way forward.
Yeah, so basically, usually on Monday, Tuesday, this week, because our grain showed up late on Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'll roll in at between 7 and 9 a.m. on day one, spend all day cleaning tanks, getting ready for the brew the next day. Then I'll brew everything that needs to be brewed for the week on day two. And then I go back, and then, I'll like drive out on Saturday and spend 4 hours in the car and 45 minutes crashing a tank. And then head back and do it again. Yeah.
Love it, man. Love it.
Oh, man.
Well, Dave, look, man, I think we're going to wrap it up. I like what you're doing. I think that Cherry Porter was pretty good, mainly because you took notes from me. And I just want to remind everybody.
Your royalty check is on the way. Yes. I sent it through FedEx.
I love it. Oh, good. Okay, so I'll get it in 4 years. I just want to remind everybody that I benefited. I benefited somebody. I influenced somebody. Just want to remind everybody about that. The branding is great. I think I'm really excited, man, to see what happens over there on New Spring, man. And
me too. Mixed Culture Marionberry Sour and 2X Hazy IPA next month.
Well, look, 1 out of 2, man. 1 out of 2 ain't bad. All right. How can everybody find out more about what you're doing up there, Dave?
You can, if you have detailed brewing questions or you want to make like a homebrew batch of something you've had from New Spring, email me at dave@newspringbeer.com. Instagram at New Spring Beer.
We got to work on your branding.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Or self-marketing, I guess, is what it is.
Yes.
It's just that it's really fresh.
Beer. That's what it is.
At New Spring Beer.
Instagram at New Spring Beer. Okay. New Spring Brewing on Facebook. And then, again, the email. And we might even make a website in the next month.
Wow. Hold on. First of all, so we can't buy this in California? Like, let's say if I told Jay, hey, man, Dave has a new project. He can't buy it at all. No. All right. Well.
Yeah.
Maybe soon.
But you can get it in Oregon.
Okay. Well, that's good. Would you contract to brew to a place in California Oregon. Or something?
I don't know. Teresa, do you want to make New Spring beer in California?
Oh.
Yeah. If you make a batch for me, I'll make a batch for you. How about that?
Whoa.
I'm not actually even kidding. I think that would be sweet.
That might actually not be a crazy idea.
That'd be tight. Yeah. That'd be cool.
Let's make our first beer like a collab.
Do a collab.
To increase awareness. And then, yeah.
I'm down. So do I like stand in your driveway to collaborate, or do we Zoom it? Or
do it how you and I do, Dave. Through email over the course of a month.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll make a like poster cutout of you, and like when we do the brew day, we'll have you up there. Yeah. That'd be sweet.
That sounds good, man. That sounds good. All right, guys. Well, look, Dave, again, congratulations, man. I'm really happy that you landed on your feet and you're doing better than ever.
Oh, and real quick.
Yeah.
If someone or some group of people is willing to donate $2,500 or more to my charity ride for the National Brain Tumor Society, which I am unable to do because of COVID, I will get a Songful Chris tattoo on my ass.
A what tattoo? Say it again.
Songful Chris Rogers. He's a big fan of the show.
Big BN guy, old BN guy.
Me to get his face tattooed on my butt.
So is it?
Oh man,
that's the price.
Is it $2,500 from one person or collectively?
No, it can be a group of people.
How do we do that? How do we do that?
I need $2,500 for the National Brain Tumor Society or more.
How do we do that?
Well, you find enough people to pitch in a couple hundred
How do we donate the money to you?
Oh.
You fucking idiot.
through the National Brain Tumor Society website. I haven't set it up, man. He just challenged me on Facebook.
So how do we?
Call the fucker out, okay? We'll get through.
Okay.
You're really, you know what?
Me at dave@newspringbeer.com with the subject line "Ass Tattoo number 2." This time it's not Ron.
Okay.
That's how we make this happen.
Okay. I'll tell you what, when you get your site set up and do all that thing, email me. I'll mention it on another show. And it's no wonder your first brand tanked. You can't market for shit.
We're drinking the wrong beer. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Teresa, thank you, of course, as always. Everyone, thanks for joining us in the chat. I really appreciate it. And we will see you guys, I think, next week. We are going to have, I want to say it's Five Sons on, S-U-N-S. Wait, is it next week? No, actually, shit. Is it this? Hold on. Are we doing 2? Yes. It's going to be, Thursday. Yeah, that works. This Thursday, the 28th, Five Sons Brewing. I believe they're in Martinez. And I have some beer from them, too. So we're going to get a double shot of the session on the old Facebook Live here, everybody. So be sure to tune in and check that out. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Until next time, be safe. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. We're getting through this thing. I mean, Dave's not, but I am. And that's all that matters. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
JP's an asshole. Justin's a nice guy and winning the race. JP does great as his charity.